It is our opinion, based on the review of all the evidence, the interviews, as well as based on the input from the forensic consultant here, that there are no criminal charges that will be prosecuted. In our opinion, based on the evidence.
And that's the conclusion of the investigation into the Ray Garcia shooting. Chief Prosecutor Phil Tidingle says, although it was a homicide, the officers were justified in the use of deadly force, knowing there was substantial risk that Garcia would cause death or serious bodily harm to another. Assistant Attorney General David Rivera further justifies their findings.
There were many attempts by the police to try to request him to place the weapon down, to allow them to assist him. He was also informed, as more police arrived, that high-powered weapons were trained on him, and that if he took any aggressive action, he ran the risk of being fired upon.
Deeper into the investigation, Rivera says witnesses at the scene explained the scenario right up to the shooting of Garcia.
Some witnesses report that he stopped and looked up to the sky for a moment before raising both arms with the weapon in hand and pointing it directly at Officer Toigli, which in turn caused Officer Toigli to initiate fire, which in turn caused two other officers, Officers De Chavez and Officer Lizama, to also initiate fire. The ceasefire was called rapidly, and Mr. Garcia fell to the ground.
Additionally, witnesses at the middle school across the street backed up the findings.
And although none of them can say what they saw was a gun, they report either the man approaching the officer and raising both arms in his direction as if holding a gun, or approaching the officer and raising both arms holding a black-colored object.
Garcia was holding a black Crossman .357 caliber pellet gun, an exact replica of a Colt .357 Python revolver. Garcia's family contends the officers on the scene did not properly negotiate with the victim and didn't take into consideration the emotional state he was in at the time of the shooting. Garcia was just coming from his late brother's viewing. Both the AG's office and police agree that the involvement of Garcia's brother-in-law and former police officer Joseph Cruz contributed to Garcia's death.
He intervened as an attempt to try to mediate, and as a result of the attempt, Mr. Ronaldo Garcia became more agitated, still refused to obey commands of the police, and began pointing the weapon at police officers. However, they could not fire because Mr. Cruz's presence in close proximity or in the line of fire to Mr. Garcia made the situation dangerous.
The Federal Bureau of Investigations is still looking into the case. Meanwhile, the family of Ray Garcia will pursue legal action against the police department. Nick Delgado, Pacific News Center.